finally, we'll move to a industry experience with the framework approach, and I'll be adding another witness to testify. We have Pamela Williams, who's a senior vice president with California Retailers Association, can come forward, as well as John Hewitt with the Western Regional Manager Grocery Manufacturers Association. And I'd like to invite, is Bridget here? Yeah, Bridget Luther, who's a representing the nonprofit Redesign industry. Ms. Williams, thank you for your patience. I see it's 4:30. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the stalwarts that are still here at the end of the day. I'll try to limit my remarks to under an hour.
Some of us are just really fascinated by trash and recycling. I can't really explain it, but
it's kind of sad for all of us.
It's been going on for decades.
Our association, our members of our association, the California Retailers Association, have about 3 years of direct experience in EPR programs, somewhat limited in California as they begin to roll out, but certainly in other states and nationally and internationally. In 2008, we were the first and only business group that came out in support of EPR as state policy in the Integrated Waste Management Board's adoption of formal state policy. In 2008, we also helped write the first California EPR law, which was on mercury thermostats. We have supported and helped write the carpet bill and the paint bills. We have also supported the unsuccessful passage of the fluorescent light bulbs and the battery legislation. But I think the overarching issue that you've heard today, and to condense it to the somewhat less than glamorous, is who's going to pay for the cost of the end of life of the products. That's really what this comes down to. And you have, as a legislature, about 4 models which have been used in California and elsewhere. The first one is what you've heard from local government today, and that is local government pays. They pay through curbside, they pay through household hazardous waste. That may be the purest and perhaps optimum policy, but for political reasons and financial reasons, that seems to be unlikely that will be the route that is sustainable for the future in terms of funding for the end of life of this growing stream of products. The second option you have is EPR, where essentially manufacturers pay to set up a system of collection. And we obviously have that for mercury thermostats now. We're starting it for carpet and paint. We're just at the beginning of baby steps for that in California. Thirdly is retail in-store take-back, which our industry sees as a threat, but there are some local governments who have decided that the best way to solve the issue of what happens to hazardous products is just to require stores that sell them to take them back to the store. And the last option, which California has a lot of experience with, is a point of sale fee, an advanced disposal fee, where the consumer pays $1, $10, and that money we pay as the retailer. We collect it from the consumer, send it to the state, and the state has a bureaucracy which administers the collection of the products. We do that for e-waste. We do that for the Beverage Container Fund. Now, we think we've pretty much lost option number 4, which is the point of sale option, because of Prop 26. The likelihood of passing a new fee at point of sale for a new program by a 2/3 vote, both locally and at the state level, is probably pretty slim. So now we're down to the locals pay, the manufacturers pay, the retailers take it back in store. Our members have looked at the issue and said, where is this going to go? What is the best option for our members? And for us, it's EPR. Where we think we have a pretty good argument to make is that retailers are also manufacturers, because we private label products. Our members private label electronics to cleaners to, you name it. And about 20% of the whole product line in retail is private label. So where our member stores have their name on it, be it Best Buy or Target or any of these other stores, they will have to be paying into the product stewardship program as a manufacturer. So looking at this, are people enthusiastic about paying an additional fee or having to pay into a product stewardship program? Of course, that's not something that they're really enthusiastic about having to do. Is it better than the alternative, which is in-store take back? Yes. Because if we start taking back these products, these hazardous products in the store, we become hazardous waste generators. We have employee training issues. We have employee liability issues. We have customer liability issues. And participating in a product stewardship program is more realistic and sustainable to us than ending up as the receptacle for all of these hazardous products being brought back into the store. That being said, we do have some recommendations from our perspective in terms of what EPR in California should look like, continue if we're going to continue to roll out this policy. One is that we think it should be done on a product-by-product basis. This will not endear us to some of the environmental community and probably some of you up there who support the framework approach. Our position is that initially it's probably better to roll this out product by product so that you can bring in the specific industry in, decide what works for that product, how its supply chain is handled, its distribution, its purchase in the marketplace, etc. And we also think politically that's been the model that has worked. That's how we got mercury thermostats, paint, and carpet when we were not able to achieve a framework approach. We also think that the going product by product will be a slower rollout than some might like, but at least we'll have the value of the experience as we're rolling out the existing programs that we've got now. Let's learn the lessons that need to be learned before we expand to the other products. Retailers always want to have the option of participating as a collection site, but not be mandated. The example that I give is that if we're talking about fluorescent light bulbs and you're Home Depot, you're probably going to be a collection site because you sell a ton of them. Your customers are coming, a lot of them are coming in for that, and it becomes a customer service and a competitive, with your competitors in the marketplace issue that you provide that service. If you're a pharmacy and you sell a couple of light bulbs here and there just to have them on the shelf if somebody wants them, it's not going to be a particular customer service or of value to you to perhaps participate in that program. So our members have always said we want it to be voluntary and we want to have the costs recovered. And again, where we are manufacturers, we're willing to pay into the program. Another point is that we think that the cost should be internalized in the product price as it moves through the chain. Probably has to be now because of Prop 26, the likelihood that POS fees are gone as a realistic alternative. We think that you should focus on hazardous materials first. Granted, carpet is not hazardous, and we did support that program. It's a huge portion of the waste stream. But if you want to target your focus, we think you should start with the hazardous materials first. And lastly, to the extent possible, although we're forging new ground here, coordinate with any other national or international programs that might be out there to the extent possible, because so many of our major companies are operating on a national and international basis. And I think that concludes my comments for now. I'll answer questions at the end. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Mr. Hewitt?
Well, thank you, Chairman Wojtkowski, Chairman Chesbro, and members of the committee, and those still with us here today at this late hour. Excuse me. You have a copy of my written testimony in front of you. I'll forego the pain of reading that and leave it for your reference and jump just to a couple quick points. As we're sitting here preparing for the hearing and even outside listening to other speakers discuss these issues today, I guess I was a little taken back looking at the committee agenda and specifically the title, Alternative Regulatory Systems, and I guess I just want to speak to that very briefly, and that maybe the more appropriate title for this hearing today, Mr. Chairman, should have been Alternative Opportunities for Extended Producer Responsibility and Product Stewardship. And namely because I think we've heard a couple of different speakers today testify to industry-led, industry-run, voluntary and non-regulatory or minimally regulatory programs as being, highly effective in the marketplace. Specifically, I want to talk about some of the things that my member companies have done to kind of drill home that point of alternative opportunities, non-regulatory opportunities, and looking at some of the numbers that you'll see in the testimony, packaging recycling has quadrupled since the 80s. These are voluntary initiatives by the manufacturing community. And specifically when we look at packaging recycling and packaging reduction, we talk about in the broader scheme of things, really what US EPA describes as their top tier, kind of their primary focus in terms of waste management, and that's source reduction. Manufacturing community has gone after source reduction as the primary goal on their sustainability initiatives. And if you look at page 4 of my written testimony, you'll see I wasn't creative enough to actually put that in there and make it up on my own, but rather that is from US EPA, and that discusses their waste management. And as you'll see on the very far right hand side, there's one little arrow that talks about recovery for recycling. And as we talk about product stewardship and EPR, I think we need to take one giant step back and look at what this graph kind of really embodies, and that's the source reduction piece, and looking at how big the source reduction piece and component is to the entire waste reduction scheme. Furthermore, just talking about the source reduction and the broader sustainability initiative, we conducted a recent survey of 23 companies where we found since 2005 they've reduced more than 1.5 billion pounds of packaging from the system, and have a commitment to reduce another 2.5 billion pounds out of the system by the year 2020. So again, as we look at opportunities, alternative opportunities, I think we need to recognize the extreme efforts that have been made by the manufacturing community to date. And then finally, and I'll just conclude with this. I heard a little bit of discussion, extremely sympathetic to the local municipality's financial situation. I think that everybody is. We all live in communities. We all participate and are active in our local communities. But really, as we go forward, I think we need to think about what the primary goal here is for a product stewardship program, whether it's opportunities or regulatory, as I mentioned before. But is the focus about the green, the money green, or is this the focus about the green, sustainability green? And so I don't think the two can be used interchangeably, and I think we need to keep our eye on what the goal is. And if the question's to me, I would say that the focus and goal should be on the sustainability side rather than the money side.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Luther, who's the Cradle to Cradle Product Innovation Institute.
Yes, I'm the president. Yes, I'm the president, and I used to be the director of the Department of Conservation. If some of you are looking at me and saying, I know her from somewhere. So I worked a lot on bottle bills, and I certainly understand what goes on in Sacramento, and I think you're at a really interesting place in time where you could actually do something really different. And I just want to coming after you, I don't think that we have to choose between the green and the green. I'm just going to hold up a Harvard Business Review article where they actually say we're eating a whole new era of innovation, how to reinvent capitalism and unleash a wave of innovation and growth. And we're going to see all of this. Inside is a huge quote